Welcome everyone to the second episode of our district assembly, which is our second year online, and tonight's the second night of the assembly. A little bit of a recap, first on last night when we spoke about our strategic objectives, and I set us all some very challenging goals for the year ahead, which I'm sure we're all going to tackle as we come out of COVID. And Phil, Irene and Roger gave you some hints and tips and some of the tools that you might need to help us to achieve those goals. We spoke about memberships, flexible clubs. Last night we spoke about projects, promoting your projects and public image. And then Roger spoke about learning and development that you might need to help you and your team to skill up to actually achieve these objectives. So full recap, Phil has been working feverishly today to edit last night's video, and in the next couple of days we will actually put onto YouTube a link for last night. So if you weren't here last night, welcome, and you can watch last night on catch up on YouTube. Go to the district website the next couple of days for the YouTube link for that. So that's what's coming up. So that's a recap of last night. Looking forward to tonight. We've got a very exciting lineup for you tonight. We have some guest speakers tonight. We have Nicki Scott, Eric Schmelling, and we have our own Tony Beckett, the youth team leader, and I'll be covering some points off at the end. So really interesting, exciting lineup tonight, different from last night, different topics and different points. So Nicki will be talking about Rotary changes, the challenges ahead, and Eric is the Chief Philanthropy Officer for Rotary International, and he's joining us from Evanston in the USA, and it's lunchtime where Eric is, so he's in the middle of his legislative sandwich. So he'll be talking to us about the Rotary Foundation, our foundation. So that'll be an interesting session to come up later on. So that's what we're doing tonight. So first up, let's go straight into it. So I'm going to introduce Nicki Scott. Nicki's the Rotary International Director-elect, who takes up office on the 1st of July, same day as me. And Nicki's also leader of the organisation for Rotary Great Britain and Ireland next year. I've worked with Nicki over the last 6 or 9 months as part of my training, so I know you're in for an interesting presentation tonight. And Nicki was part of the working party that helped to develop the Rotary goals and as we spoke about it last night. So interesting time from Nicki. So I'm going to hand over to Nicki now. There'll be a short video, then we're going to join Nicki for a presentation.
So it's lovely to be with you all tonight in District 1285, and a special hello to our current DG Peter, who you just saw, including all the future leaders, Eric, Kevin and Swati, and of course many of the others who are here to share with you tonight. And somebody who I know who is out there watching somewhere is PDG, David Ellis, and if I didn't give him a mention, then I'm sure he'd be giving me a hard time later. So he's my cohort, of course, as the leader of the executive next year. So thank you very much, David. It's a joy to work with you. And before I move off the Ellises, I think I just want to mention that it actually is a really special day, the most important person day today. Oh, there we go. That's my dad trying to call me. Thanks, Dad. The really important person today is Denise Ellis, because it's your birthday. So I poured a little glass of wine. I don't know if anyone else has got one going, but happy birthday, Denise. So I'm going to have a toast to you. Sorry, Eric, we're rubbing it in because it's only lunchtime for you. So I wish I could see you all, but I can't. So I'm just going to keep going. So it's lovely, as I said, to be with you all. And thank you, Eric, for inviting me. I absolutely love the theme of your assembly, adapting Rotary to a post-COVID world and increasing service. That couldn't be more up my street if I could ask for it. So thank you for picking that theme. I did have a chance, as you said, to serve on the strategic planning team. And I've also had a chance to serve on Rotary International's pandemic response task force, which sounds very grand, but actually it was all about how do we make the most of capitalizing on this wonderful catalyst of change that COVID has provided for us. Now, I'm in a bit of a fun mood, as you can tell, but can I just take a moment and say that I know COVID hasn't been exactly fun for a lot of people, and a lot of people definitely know somebody, they've lost someone close to them, or they've been ill themselves. So in all seriousness, can I just say all my respects to those of you, and my heart goes out to all of those of you who have suffered heartache over this past few months or over a year now. However, I am going to also embrace the fact that it is a catalyst for change. And in fact, that theme is a very big theme this year, because as Eric knows, President-elect Shekhar has asked all of his governors, incoming governors, to be change maker governors. And therefore today, I'm going to call on all of you who are joining us on this webinar today to be change maker Rotarians. The term that Shekhar loves to use is movers and shakers. And in fact, let's add on to that and say life changers, because his theme, of course, is serve to change lives. And that's what it's all about. That's why we are who we are. That's what Rotary is serving to change lives. So I was very fortunate that Eric shared his plans and objectives with me. And I have to say, I was delighted by what I saw. And I know you had a really good dose of that last night, but I'm going to build on it, if I may, because I think a great plan is a great start to build on and continue to build on the shoulders of those who've come before you. And of course, move us towards a vibrant future for Rotary, which is what we want. This is way too amazing of an organization not to be around for another 115 years or 100, coming up for 117 years. So obviously that's what it's all about. And we're going to look at how do we put that plan into action. Now, I know you had some great tips yesterday, but I'm going to build on those as well. So let's look at the why, the what, and then the how, right? Very simply, why, the what, and the how. And it's all about change right now. I can't see your hands, but if I could, I'd ask you to say, who loves change? And maybe some of you are saying yes, and maybe some of you are saying, oh my gosh, you must be joking. Happens to be a thing I love. I love change. I've moved continents a couple of times, and I've always found change to help me grow and help me learn more and do different things and try different approaches to things. So I've really loved embracing change. But let's go back to the very beginning, shall we? Because it was actually February 23rd this year. We did celebrate our 116th birthday, and we have a wonderful heritage in Rotary that we can very proudly embrace. I mean, there's so much to be appreciative of in what's gone before us. Back in 1905, when Paul Harris started, he was just 37 years old. And I think that's sometimes forgotten. He was a traveler. He was a bit of a rogue, actually, and he was looking to settle in Chicago and do business with people he could trust as having the same high integrity values as himself. So hence the original classification system, because he wanted to build a network of like-minded businessmen, right? It was businessmen at the time. I think we know that. But they rotated hosting the meetings, which is why we're called Rotary. There's a little fact you may not have heard before. So anyway, I sometimes feel that we've drifted too far from those original business networking roots. And we were essentially the original LinkedIn. That's what I like to think. And those strong ethical values on which we were built are absolutely golden. Fellowship or friendship, leadership, integrity, diversity, and service. The acronym to remember those, by the way, is FLIDS. And those will never change, right? Those are fantastic values. That's the rock on which we're built and the rock on which we can move forward. But the world has changed significantly over those last 116 years. And the question is, are we keeping pace with it? The answer is, we're not. I mean, we're creatures of habit, aren't we? I'm sure you're very familiar with Einstein's definition of insanity. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So let's just bring that home a little. And again, I can't see you, so I'm just going to trust you're going to play along. But just fold your arms for a second. Everyone just fold your arms. It's easy, right? Nice and comfortable, settling in for the evening. Don't fall asleep. I want this to be a moving experience for you. So on that note, can you just lift your arms, shake them about, and now fold them the other way with the other arm on top. Gosh, I'm not sure which one I had on top. It's really hard to do it differently because we are creatures of habit. So that's why we stay rooted in doing what we've always done. But we need to stay around for this next century of service. And in the words of Paul Harris himself, there's nothing in Rotary so sacred than it cannot be set aside in favor of things better. Didn't they speak beautifully back then? I love the way he said that. So we are actually at a pivotal moment in Rotary's history. 116 years of great service behind us. We're on the verge of eradicating polio. And that, let's not forget, that started at the club level in the Philippines in 1979. And, you know, just everything really magic happens at the club level. Let's never forget that. And look where we've come now, down to just 2 countries that are endemic. And we're so close. And how much that's been repurposed to help meet this new challenge of COVID-19. And it's a huge catalyst for change, as I've said already, but we're really able to now really drive home how much relevance we have to the world because of all these lessons learned in the work we've done on polio. We're repurposing all of that infrastructure, and we're out there now being seen way more than we have been for a long time. So sometimes it takes something as crazy as a pandemic to help us innovate. I know that Phil Dyer, who I work with quite closely on Together Talks, loves that think differently. Well, we could have been meeting online like this, you know, several years ago. The internet's been around quite a while now, but were we doing it? No, it takes something seismic sometimes to help us shift and change those habits. And let's talk about change. There's been amazing changing trends in volunteering, right? People like to maybe micro volunteer, just do a little bit. They want to dip in and dip out, episodic volunteering. They want to do it virtually, which means they may not want to go physically to anywhere at all, that they might help with their skills and service, but do it virtually. And then, of course, cause-based. My children are, gosh, let me do 20, 25, 20, 27 and 25 now. And they are very much driven by knowing what they're doing, cause-based initiatives, not just general do-good. So they want to know where the money's going. They want to know where their time's going. And because there's so many options for people to volunteer, we've got to make sure that we're offering them, you know, offering them the same options. People like to buy, they don't like to be sold. There's no such thing as one size fits all. And we need to engage with them and meet them where they are. So I love the emphasis in your district on flexibility. And I know Phil went on at length last night about different options on flexible terms for membership. And I think that's fantastic. I'm not a fan personally of forcing clubs to change. If your club's happy with what you're doing and the way you're doing it, and you're giving back to both local and global communities, then there's nothing wrong with that. And especially if you're having fun. But younger generations do not find necessarily that traditional club model very appealing. They want the flexibility, right, to do the service, but maybe just a little less about the eating. So it's this new club, which again, you're doing a lot of, and planting these new clubs and these different ways to engage. Fantastic. And we'll come back to that later. So let's be clear, you know, I'm talking about younger people, and yes, there's a lot of emphasis in your goals, Eric, of attracting younger people, but there's no right age to join Rotary. I mean, if you think about it, we need those younger people. Yes, we do. And they do have a heart for service. I know that for sure from my own parenting experience and mixing with my children's friends. But it's also those people who are maybe getting to the point of full-blown career, and they want mentors, they want to network, they want to look for opportunities to learn from people who have a lot more experience in the field. I'm a member of North Cotswolds Club, and at the point I joined, it was 45 members, all men. And I'll never forget the first meeting I went to, I sat next to Colin. And I said to Colin, "What do you do, Colin?" He said, "Well, I've been club secretary and treasurer. I haven't been president." "Well, yeah, but I'm not sure about that one." But I said, "That's not what I asked you. I asked you what you do." And he said, oh, you mean, well, I'm retired." I said, "Well, what did you do? Don't make this so hard. What did you do?" And he said, "Well, I was a purchaser for Sainsbury's." And I said, "Oh, well, that's a good job." I said, "What, in Cheltenham? Because that's nearby." He said, "Oh, no, global purchaser for Sainsbury's." And my mouth just fell open. I'm like, wow, what an incredible wealth of expertise sitting here right next to me in this club. And I don't think we stop and value that enough. You know, that sense of vocational service and mentoring and learning from each other's. Younger people would have to pay buku bucks, buku dollars, buku pounds to sit next to some people with these sort of level of expertise. And I don't know why there aren't people lining up at the door, quite frankly. And then you think about people who are entering retirement phase, you know, and or the children, maybe, let's go start there. The children have just left home and you're sort of looking at each other over dinner and thinking, gosh, you know, wow, what are we going to do now? Well, guess what? Rotary can come to the rescue. And a sense of purpose beyond that work, that when you retire and you're so lost because you think, oh my goodness, I don't know who I am if I'm not the person that I was working. And I felt that even when I moved to the States, I felt what that felt like because I couldn't work for a while. So it's about that sense of purpose and getting connected to that. And bringing that value and a sense of purpose to all ages is the magic. That intergenerational aspect of Rotary, I believe, is the magic and appeal. The more diverse we are, the better. I think we have to get clearer about what it is we are selling, right? What are we selling? Are we selling the chance to get together and have a meal? Hopefully not, right? We're service above self. It's all about service. And how are we doing it? It's not really about the how, is it? It's the opportunity for people to make a difference way beyond what they could ever achieve on their own through this phenomenal global and local network of like-minded people with the same values of service above self. So we come back to that need for service, which I know has been a big theme of your assembly and will continue to be as you go forward. And in the wake of this devastating impact of COVID-19 on our communities, they're going to need us now more than ever. And I think Rotary and Rotarians can have a real relevant role in helping rebuild our local economies and support those who've lost their businesses and lost their jobs. The United Nations coined a term, build back better, but I prefer to say, let's build forward better. Let's build forward fairer. Let's build forward greener. Now we have the environment as our seventh area of focus. In this new world of work that we all live in, actually, I just did start a job. I know I'm crazy, but I'm really enjoying it actually as an infusion of new energy and learning new things. And a lot of what we talk about at work, which is an environment where we're trying to build trust at an executive level, it's like, well, people are feeling more isolated and working from home, right? They need to get together to build trust, or do they? And how do we help people do that? If they're working from home, they are alone and they're wasting less hours commuting on those roads of ours and how difficult that is going somewhere in traffic. So maybe that's more time on their hands. And there comes the opportunity for Rotary, because we are better together. And in fact, the new United Nations term is only together. And I really love that. Only together can we move these islands forward as we recover from COVID. So that's the why. That's the why we need to change, and that's the why we need to do it. So then the next thing is the what, and that goes back to the action plan. Now, I know Eric shared this in detail, and I was delighted to see that he focused on the 4 priorities of Rotary International's action plan, which, by the way, was the result of over 1 million people being surveyed: Rotarians, Rotaractors, alumni, and even prospective Rotarians. So it wasn't just a few people sat in a room figuring that out on their own. But I have to say, I could not have enjoyed more my opportunity to participate. I had to sort of pinch myself as I looked around the room and the people I was in the room with, you know, that imposter syndrome thing. I mean, some of these people were so wise with so much more experience than me, but I learned so much. And I'm really proud of the vision statement that we did end up with. And I know you've heard it, but I'm going to say it again. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities and in ourselves. So there's that word change again. But I want to focus on that last part of the triad. That's actually my favorite piece: in ourselves. Well, we can't talk about ourselves, can we? This is service above self. Surely we're not supposed to talk about ourselves. But I think that's where we may be going wrong. We're so focused on talking about what we do for others, we don't talk about how Rotary is actually a gift in our lives. Rotary's been an enormous gift, not just to me, but to my children too. And I've grown so much personally in living in service to others. And it gives me such that strong sense of purpose and helped me through many trials and tribulations along the way. And I don't think we sell leadership development opportunities nearly enough. It takes a lot more muscle to lead leaders than it does followers, right? And there are so many opportunities that come from doing just that. So let's get back to that action plan. I want to get a little bit into some of the details that Eric shared with you, because I really want to home in. I think these are fantastic. And the increase our impact, there's so much in that, isn't there? But that general theme of collaborating is enormous. Working together, better together, only together. And I love your emphasis on the foundation. It breaks my heart how much money is left on the table. We raise funds and we give them away without multiplying them through our foundation. So I was absolutely delighted to see the emphasis on making sure that we're amplifying the pounds that we raise before we give them away. I think that's really important. And having this emphasis on Rotary as well. Actually, no, that's in the next one. But this projects, working on projects together, I think is fantastic. And I remember when I was a club president, we had a visit from the DG, and the DG said, would your community notice if you weren't there? And I thought, ouch, gosh, that's a horrible thought. Would they notice? And Phil shared with me his lovely slide on that lion and the pussycat, the lion in the mirror and the pussycat looking. You know, maybe we think we're having more impact than we have, or maybe we're having more impact than we do realize. And I love the quote, the Oscar Wilde quote, right? There's nothing worse than people talking about you, unless the fact that they're not talking about you at all. And I think we want the communities to be talking about us. We want to know, we want them to know who we are. And sometimes I think we've become too much generalists. What's our identity if we're only giving it away to other charities? So that emphasis on service and projects is enormous in getting it, owning it for ourselves, and knowing that we're multiplying that money through our own foundation instead of a fragmented effort. Massive. Next one, expand our reach. I think this is enormous opportunity right now. I think we are very privileged in some ways to have a chance to do things differently because we've gained so much, we've learned so much from building on this catalyst for change, and an opportunity to do these flexible clubs, plant new clubs, a district passport. Love that idea. I think it just gives people a chance to move in, move out, do it when they can, not worry when they can't, and embrace those extra generations to work alongside us. Fantastic opportunities. And all of these new volunteers that have arisen as a result of the pandemic, oh my goodness, you know, how fantastic that they're out there and they've maybe had a taste of service for the very first time. Think about all those WhatsApp groups in your communities. How much are you engaging with those people? Because that's what it's all about. That's what Together Talks was about, right? Join leaders, exchange ideas, take action. It was about inviting others to come and join us because we can be the home that they can come home to. Afterwards, now they've got that taste for service. In my opinion, all of those new volunteers are Rotarians. They just don't know it yet. And then enhancing participant engagement. It's so important to take care of our existing members as well as engage new ones. And there's nothing like a service project to get involved, get to know the people you're working with, build those relationships that last. That's such an important element of Rotary. I know we lose a lot of people, sadly, just 2 years into Rotary membership. Excuse me 1 second. And the trouble is that's because we haven't engaged them. We've just carried on doing what we always do. And then we try and have an exit interview after they've gone. Well, that's too late. How about we have an entrance interview? Ask them why they joined in the first place. What is it that they want to do? And how can they contribute? Very important to do that. And I think having those flexible options and looking at, I know there's going to be an incredible emphasis in your district on leadership development too, which is huge, isn't it? Because that's where growth is. And learning is ultimately such a core need for any individual to keep learning. So how wonderful that your district's so dedicated to doing that. And as for increasing our ability to adapt, oh my goodness, we're doing that in spades. Look at how we're operating this district assembly on the internet and virtually in a webinar. And I love the fact that President Holger's logo, Peter, your current president, had all the doors finally open, right? We're not meeting behind closed doors for the first time. So we're actually more accessible. People are flying into our meetings. We're jumping all over the place. You could go to any other country now that you know that they're out there, and go to one of their meetings. So it breaks my heart when there's so many Rotarians out there who don't realize that as well as joining their club, they joined this enormous global network of Rotary at exactly the same time for no extra money. Oh my goodness, that is priceless. That would take away all the arguments about dues, because it is amazing. If you ever go to another place, and we will get a chance again one day, please go visit another club, even if it's just in another town in one of these islands, right? England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales. We've got all sorts of different communities to explore, even without going too far. But you can jump on a plane wherever you go and meet with Rotarians and be welcomed with open arms. That's fantastic. So let's end up on the how, shall we? A plan is only a plan until we put it into action. And as you can see by my backdrop, we are people of action. That's the story. That's the tagline. And what is it about? It's that storytelling, isn't it? It is about that story. What's your response when somebody asks you, what is Rotary? If you start talking about how you get together on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday night, and that you meet over dinner, and sometimes dinner's great, but sometimes the chicken's a bit rubbery, and oh my goodness, you've lost interest. You've lost their interest already, right? We missed the chance. And I know many of you will have heard that famous phrase coined by Michelangelo Caruso. What's the best answer to what is Rotary? It's the best decision I ever made. And then wait a few seconds, because now you've got their interest. It's like they're going to want to know why. So it's that why. I'm a huge proponent of Simon Sinek. Start with why. Several of you will have heard this already from me, but if you haven't had a chance yet, please go and Google, and maybe somebody can put it up there in the chat or in the question and answer so you can all see. But it's start with why. There's a great TED talk out there. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And we need to focus on the impact Rotary is having, the stories about the people who benefit from the work we do. Our brand is so much more than a logo, it's a promise. And as President-elect Shekhar said at International Assembly, every single one of us is a brand ambassador. We refer to the Rotary wheel as a mark of excellence. It evokes feelings of pride and purpose to us. But the question is, what does it mean to those who are not yet a Rotarian? I know Irene spoke to you about public image. I mean, if people don't have any idea what we do, how are we going to expect them to want to join us? And we really need to think about what image we're portraying. Please think very carefully about social pictures on social media about handing over chains, because no wonder people have this idea that we're some weird cult if that's all they see. If they could see the work we're doing and being out in the communities and litter picking and picking up plastic and working with youth, that would be why they might want to join us. So I want to end a little bit on my personal why I love Rotary. I do have a bit of a passion for it, as you may have been able to tell. And it really is, it's been the gift that keeps giving, you know, right from the very get-go. I moved from England when I was just 28 and pregnant to Chicago. Not something I would recommend, by the way, if anyone's thinking about moving continents when they're pregnant, not a great idea. But I was fortunate, after a few sort of moments of wandering around aimlessly, to be landed and invited to join Rotary. And I did join for networking reasons, and I'm not ashamed of that. It was a wonderful opportunity to meet the real movers and shakers in the town. And what I found is, by getting out at 5 a.m. in the morning, we were a breakfast club. By getting out at 5 a.m. and cooking pancakes, which is what they eat for breakfast in America, with sausage and maple syrup, by the way, that was a taste that had to be acquired. But we were cooking that for the homeless, and I got to know the people, and very soon I got a taste for service and that sense of purpose. And I was just 35, and my children were 7 and 5 at the time. I used to just drag them along to everything. And eventually we had an opportunity to take our children to Zambia on a grassroots international project. They were just 13 and 11 at the time, and the impact on them was so profound. Chloe, my daughter, went into sustainable development and has been working for the Global Futures Laboratory at Arizona State University. And Sam didn't go into that as a field of expertise, but he did come home and eventually, I've just got to divert. I know I'm watching time, Eric, don't worry, but he did come home and say, couple of years later, you know, Mum, I think I really need a car. And I said, what do you mean? Have we taught you nothing? You know, you learned how wonderful it is to have, how privileged you are and how happy people in Zambia who have nothing can be. And you're telling me you need a car? Come on. He said, no, but I do. And I said, well, if you're going to need one, then, you know, we're not going to buy it for you. So you can save up for one. So he did. And then he said to me, but Mum, I think I need a private license plate. And I thought, oh, I can't believe you're saying that. Nobody needs a private license plate at your age. Come on, that's ridiculous. Well, he went ahead, spent his money. And when he got his license plate, it said Zikomo, which is Zambian for gratitude. He said, Mum, I'll never forget that those children that had nothing were happier than my friends at school moaning about their lost iPhone. And I thought, wow, I had to eat my words. And it has been a gift to them. And, you know, it kept on being a gift to me, quite frankly, every time I took up and took on another level of leadership, whatever it was, club president, having a chance to serve as DG, being a coordinator, strategic planning, more and more growth I got. And it's been worth its weight in gold, not just in Rotary, but for my career as well. And I just think, again, we just don't sell that enough. And I'd like to ask you all to take a second and reflect on how much has Rotary been a gift in your life? Think about that. Think about what it's meant to you. Because instead of just ranting on about membership, and even though we need more to join us and we do need to grow Rotary, how about think of it in terms of who have you given the gift to? It's a gift to give. And the sooner people get that gift, the better, because it just keeps giving. 10 years on from that trip to Zambia, my daughter Chloe was home from college, and she attended the installation of my own club president. And unknown to me, she went up to ask if she could be a speaker at the club, because she was so stirred by how meaningful the impact that these people had had on her life. And I didn't know she asked to do that. And 2 weeks later, she said to me, Ma, I think I'd like to come to Rotary with you this morning. And I thought, well, that's weird. Students don't get up at 7 a.m. But I said, okay, that's great. So there's loads of people I'd like to just reconnect with. So she came with me, and there she was within seconds up at the podium. And I thought, wow. And if you'll indulge me, I'd like to share an extract, the letter that she read, that she had written to my club. Now, I'd like to ask you all to imagine that she is reading this to you as members of your own club. I was never a project in your eyes. I was never a goal or a beneficiary of a fundraiser. Yet I, along with many, may be one of your most underestimated accomplishments. While you were focused on improving an individual in need's home, I was learning dedication. While you were focused on serving the homeless, I was experiencing empathy. And while you were focused on throwing outstanding events in order to raise funds for countless causes, I was helping sweep the floors, being shown that no task is too menial for anyone. While you were focused on providing clean water, basic education and self-sufficiency to rural villages in Zambia, I was taught gratitude in the most humbling way any 11-year-old could ever experience. It is not just the people you serve or the beneficiaries of your funds that benefit from your service above self, but the many others you inspire to do the same. I may be the one who's up here today, but I assure you there are many more who I was raised alongside with, whose words these ring true for. I ask you on behalf of all the children, never stop doing what you're doing, to never lose your heart, passion and drive. If it was not for you, I would not be an international volunteer enthusiast, and know that I want to dedicate my life to international sustainable development. So you see, it impacted my children's lives just as it's impacted mine. So I want to close by saying thank you again for this opportunity to talk to you all this evening. And my call to action and my challenge to you all is, are you going to manage the status quo, or are you going to lead and be a change maker? In the words again of our founder, Paul Harris, if Rotary is to realize its proper destiny, it must be evolutionary at all times and revolutionary on occasions. So we need to embrace change, and now is the time. The future of Rotary depends on it. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Nicki. That was great. Absolutely super. you use two words most often. I was doing a bit of a word count during your presentation, and opportunity was the word that came up most often. So opportunity, which is what we spoke about last night, opportunities for us to do things differently and to change and whatever came up. And also, obviously, the word change was your second most popular word, which was great. So yeah, that's kind of our themes, opportunities for us to change and do things differently. As this Think Differently came out of District 1285. We did the first Think Differently presentations, and Irene and Phil and Roger were involved in that. So basically, we've kept that going. So now we're acting differently. We've done Think Differently. That's old hat now. Now it's acting differently. We've moved on from that.
There we go.
We've thought about it. Now we're doing something about it. That's what we're trying to do, and that's great. So, no, they're really inspiring. They just made me think about how Rotary's changed my life, how things that I've done differently. And like you, I joined Rotary for networking. I was running my own business. I joined that. I didn't do any business in the first year, but it still changed my life. So, I've now travelled the world. I've been to different countries I've never been to, met people that I'd never met, all because of Rotary. So, yeah, it's had a huge impact on my life. So, it's been a gift to me, which has been great. We've got some questions for you now from the panel. So, Swati's going to pose some questions to you, if you don't mind.
Absolutely happy. I hope I didn't go on too long and left a little time for that. So
absolutely fine. We've got a lot of flex in our schedule tonight, so that's good. Okay. So I'll hand over to Swati to do the questions for you. Over to you, Swati.
Yes. Thank you, Nicki. It's been so inspirational. And already I'm looking on the screen, and I have got some comments from Rosemary Charles saying, "What an inspirational speaker." And Bev Yarwood is saying, "Wow, thank you so much." So you have inspired a lot of people, including myself. So there is a question from Robert. He's asking, my question is the one someone asked me. I can volunteer here locally for church, food banks, etc. Why would I pay a subscription as well to do this? And then he continues to say, I have had 4 major contractors at my home in the last 3 years, and none of them had heard about Rotary, let alone what it was. One knew about Lions.
Yeah, so thank you, Robert, for that question. And, I hope I've gone some way to answering that tonight about why would you pay a subscription to be part of Rotary? Because it is so much more than just volunteering, right? Yes, you can volunteer with all sorts of organizations, and you can do that for free. But where else do you get that same global network and have access to a multi-million, billion-dollar endowment fund that multiplies your money? If you have a chance to, work with it, you raise funds and it literally can multiply almost 3 times. It's not quite that number anymore because they're running out of money because we don't give enough to it, which is a real shame. So I really think that Rotary offers so much more than just the volunteering. It's that fellowship, it's that camaraderie, it's that sense of being around, it's community. It's community wherever you go in the world. I went on holiday to St. Lucia and I got invited to a club. And I said, yes, I'll come. And my family said, oh my God, here goes mum. She's crazy going on holiday to Rotary. And it was the most incredible experience. I didn't get back for 4 hours because then I got invited to someone's home and we were planning projects in no time. You can't buy that. You can't buy that sort of values and that sort of a chance to network globally and leverage how much difference we can make. We all want to make a difference, otherwise we wouldn't be Rotarians, but we can make so much more difference by working with others and serving with others.
Thank you, Nicki. Of course, everybody has a sort of really coming forward. Tony Clayson, who is our sort of change maker within our district, he's got a comment for you. Great words, Nicki. Thank you very much for your inspiration, and especially to your daughter for her insightful words.
Well, thank you. My daughter actually, Tony, I've shared that story a couple of places in the world. So she keeps getting invited now to the Philippines and goodness knows where else. I'm like, wait, what about me? Yeah.
So I've again another very sort of person who has said great talk. That's from Ravindra Sawant. So everybody is enjoying. So I've got I don't know whether to make it as a question or not, but I'll read it out. This is from Ken Stringer. He's writing, interested to know how many have attended yesterday and today. Apologies if this has been announced and I missed it. Would expect it to have been well attended. When face-to-face meetings begin again, which may not be as soon as many expect, in consideration being given for assembly type meetings to continue by Zoom?
Yes.
The answer is yes. There is a limited scope for fellowship at such meetings, and avoidance of travel time alone is one of the several advantages I could list. I would not have attended yesterday and today other than by Zoom. That probably applies to many more. Very
Well,
good.
thanks so much, Ken. I think that's exactly the point I'm hoping that we can take away from an assembly like this, is to take some of these lessons learned during these challenging times on how much more effective and how much more inclusive we can be to some extent on a virtual platform. Now, I'm not always going to advocate for virtual, because I know that you had in your goals, Eric, some in-person opportunities for fellowship. And I hope that means that translates to parties, because I don't know about anyone else, but I've missed out on a few parties, and I think that's what we need sometimes. It's the parties, it's the informal banter at the bar where we really get to know each other. And that's how team building and team bonding takes place. I know you're doing a lot of work to look at breaking down those barriers between teams. If the teams never came together in one place at the same time, then they wouldn't build that bond. And I think that opportunity to get together is very important for team building, but you can do an awful lot and achieve an awful lot online. And because people get restless, it helps you be a little bit more effective and efficient in running the meeting, doesn't it? So getting clear about what the agenda is and not waffling around it, but yeah, let's get the job done and then have fun when we get together. Great concepts.
We've got plans for fun when we can get together again. That's for definite.
Absolutely. I know that I don't hear it so often over here as I did in the States, but the four-way test, right? Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? What great mottos to live by. And I just love to add a fifth one. Will it be fun?
Absolutely. I think we've got one final question for you, Nicki.
Yes, this is from Herbert and Joy Tatters. They're asking, I'm at a loss to understand why we do not reinvent classifications. What is your view?
Well, Herb, I'm not quite sure I understand what you mean by that, but let me assume something, which is always dangerous, of course. But yeah, the classification system, I know we threw it out because it's like we had, I don't know, my club back in the States, we had goodness knows how many bankers and lawyers. And originally you were only allowed one person from each profession, right? Because the idea was you would give each other your business. That was the original intention of Paul Harris. So yes, we threw it out because we said, oh, no, we don't want to restrict it. But if clubs actually stopped and thought about who are their members, what are their vocations? How often do you find clubs talking about what people do and what their real skills are in the real working world, and even what they did before they retired? Because that is so important that we find out what those skills are. The right people need to be in the right job. And there's so many talented people out there that we have no idea what they do because we never talk about it. The other thing I think for clubs to look at how to grow is look at, are you reflecting your community? Do you have a plumber? Do you have an electrician? Do you have a librarian? Do you have the local baker and the shoemaker? That isn't such a bad idea. If that's what you meant, Herb, then yes, bring it back. Do a classification audit and then go and invite people who are missing from the club, because we want to give work. We want to know who those people are if we're going to give business to them. So it's a great concept.
That leads very well into Tony Clayson's question. I laugh because my daughter is in Tony Clayson's club. His question is, have you any experience of supporting the establishment of family-based Rotary groups where parents and children can attend together? And if so, what were the barriers?
Yes, well, as I said, I dragged my children along to everything. They had to sweep the floors, literally. Chloe wasn't kidding. But, you know, it never did them any harm. I can promise you that. And I know that there are clubs in these islands. Maidenhead Club Bridge was a relatively newly formed club that meet in a coffee shop on a Sunday, and they bring the kids. And they don't have a meal because they don't want to spend the money on a meal, but they buy coffee and the kids play in the corner and they have fun while they figure out what project they want to do next. And I do think that's something we can think about. And I think we should think about family type memberships and have discounted membership dues for second members of families, whether it's a partner or a child or a parent, even for somebody. There's a lot more we could do to make it more inclusive. And the more inclusive it is, the easier it is on the family to support the people who want to do it, right? Instead of pulling them in a different direction. So lots to do there, Tony.
Another new idea to add to my goals, Tony.
Yes. There is a very nice comment from Bernard Murphy. Bernard is in my club, so I can see where he's coming from. The comment is, I recently attended a Zoom meeting with Weinberg Rotary Club in Cape Town,
Fantastic.
together with the fellow Rotarians from our club. What an inspiration, so much so that we are now looking to join other club in Australia. What and why, what a way to spread the word and make new friends.
So, Bernard, that is absolute music to my ears, because I talked about if we're not using our foundation, we're leaving money on the table. But if we're not looking at building relationships in this global network, we're leaving value on the table. That's what we should talk about, is the value of Rotary, not how much it costs. Forget the cost, it's the value, and the value of those interglobal relationships and how you can work together to achieve projects. There are so many do-gooders in the world that project what somebody needs. In Rotary, we ask what's needed. We work with Rotarians who know what's needed on the ground. That's what differentiates us. And instead of waiting for that to happen and a need, why not build those sister relationships or brother relationships? Sorry, I don't mean to be sexist about that. But, you know, have a club that you have a sort of penmanship with, or a Zoom friendship with, and get to know who they are. And then you can maybe one day get together when you go to an international convention and have a drink at the bar, because it's getting to know each other that really helps work together and collaborate more and really make a difference. So that's a great concept. Districts too, Eric, have a district relationship with another district somewhere in the world.
That's right. Well, we've actually got an invitation to go and join us in India, but perhaps at the moment that's not such a good idea. We're putting that
we could do friendship exchanges, right? We could do it virtually. We don't have to wait. We could do it now virtually. And then one day when we can, maybe we could go and visit and learn from each other's cultures. And that'd be a great concept. And
we do have clubs at the district that have partner clubs across Europe that they meet with quite regularly. So we were into that long before Zoom, actually. That's been happening in clubs at the district. I know that's good. So Nicki, thank you very much for that. It's been really inspiring tonight. Lots of information, lots of food for thought, lots of opportunities for us to look at again, which is what we've got the theme on. And the final presentation tonight is actually about collaboration on projects. So we're going to end on collaboration that you mentioned in there. So that's the sort of wrap up tonight, is working together with other clubs, other districts and other organisations. So we're going to end with collaboration at the end of the evening. So we're on the same page, which is good to know. So that's
You're doing so much so right. Thank you so much to this district. Thank you to all of those out there who I can't see, as well as those who I can see, for all that you're doing to make a difference. And I know I said I had other things to go and do, Eric, but I haven't actually had a chance to eat yet. So I'm going to turn off my camera and go on mute, but I am going to listen in if that's still okay with you.
Absolutely great, Nicki. Thanks very much. Thanks for joining us, and enjoy your meal.
Thanks so much. Take care, everyone. All the best.
Thanks, Nicki.